The cases that I'm seeing that are really starting to push the envelope of the technology is I had an aha moment. I had to drive to my daughter's soccer game. My advice to businesses is
In 5 years, every business phone number will have an AI behind it. Andy O'Dower, the Vice President of Conversational AI at Twilio, reveals how Twilio is already making that future real.
This episode is brought to you by Impekable, your go-to technology partner for AI-powered customer experiences. If you're building voice, chat, SMS, or AI voice agents, our team helps you go from prototype to production fast. Learn more at impeccable.com. Now let's jump into today's conversation with Andy O'Dower of Twilio.
Hi, and on today's episode of Impeccable Minds, I have a very special guest, an old friend who I recently reconnected with, Andy O'Dower, the Vice President of Voice and Conversational AI for Twilio. Welcome to the show.
Pek, thanks for having me. It's great to see you again. This will be fun. Looking forward to it. Thank you. Thank you. It's always a little bit nerve-wracking, but mostly exciting for me. I think this is stuff that I love to talk about. I think where I am, especially now, many years after we first met, coming to Twilio and seeing all the cool stuff that people build on top of Twilio, but then get to meet them in person and get to talk with them and get to hear the challenges and opportunities and all the new exciting stuff that they're doing. And it always is exciting to be able to highlight some of the new amazing stuff on the main stage, which is always bigger than it's going to be until you walk out there.
All the case studies and showcases and demos. Let's get right into it. All right. What's a sentence no one in your industry wants to say out loud?
I think it's probably a blend of I can't keep up and I don't understand what's coming next. I think the reason is, it's moving so quickly. Just, refresh a Twitter feed and there's going to be some new advancement that you didn't think was coming that was supposed to be 2 years out and now it's here today. And next thing you know, then somebody's built a tutorial of how to use it and how to build on it and how it's going to change everything and maybe throw away what you were doing before and then use this new framework or, new model for different use cases and things like that. So, as soon as you feel like you're caught up, some new advancement comes out of nowhere. And so I think, most people want to, show that air of confidence of we know how to use this, we know how it's going to change everything. But in reality, it's far too early to tell and to predict what next year is going to look like or a year after that. I think that's probably my take.
Agreed. I been keeping up and I subscribe to about maybe 20 AI newsletters. And honestly, I barely read most of them. It's just too much, this deluge. And one example that comes to mind in your response is the idea of MCP servers, and everybody jumped up on MCP servers, and then recently OpenAI said we're building all these features, and a friend of mine called it like, yeah, MCP is like a stopgap, and then the LLMs will just bake it in, and you'll have access to these tools. So yeah, build your MCP servers, but they'll have connectors coming, and so the target's always moving.
Yeah, it's always moving, and then agent to agent, a protocol from Google as well, and like you said, what will be baked in, what will not. You can assume, like we've seen in a lot of cases, that that saying of hey, that's a feature, that's not a company or a product. There's going to be these capabilities that can get subsumed by the big LLM companies and AI companies that naturally these AI models are very hungry for all of data and integrations and knowledge and everything else. So naturally they have this tendency to get bigger and bigger and put them in these big generalized models so they can be more productive. So yeah, it's just impossible to keep track. So anybody that says they've got it down right now probably want to question.
Yeah. What's something most people get wrong about AI?
I think probably it goes to the ends of the spectrum of it's going to solve everything and it's going to be the end of all of us. So the answer is going to be somewhere in the middle. So I think it becomes like many things, assuming too much, assuming that is going to solve everything and no one will have jobs on one end of the spectrum, and the other end of the spectrum, we won't even be here because AI will take over and, it'll be the last, great invention that happens that ruins us all. And I think it's a tool like anything else that humans have built and can solve a lot of problems. Day by day, we're seeing more and more discrete, very focused problems being solved by these tools. And I think it's somewhere in the middle. And I think that kind of like that first thing of what nobody wants to say is that we're in this era of so much change. You can't assume all of one thing or all of the other. You want to look at how is this tool being applied? how's it effective, what's working, what's not. And it might be more incremental change than just everything changes overnight. Because I think you're also, you're in the realm of applying this to human behavior and human psychology and where and when and how this gets deployed, that it's not the all or nothing thing. That's one thing that jumps out at me that I think that people get wrong. It's this all or nothing thing.
Right. And it's really, and people are very quick to write off when they try to do this all approach and it doesn't work, and like, oh, AI
Yeah.
sucks.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
oh, you can't build an application. Well, it can style pages really well. It can come up with a structure. It can build APIs. If you have it stick into really small stuff, it can accomplish quite a lot. I would call them tiny little agents and bots that do little things like go find me this person's email, or go research this person and company, like revenue, funding, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I find that those types of small tasks that I would maybe have my EA do that, and it's great because he doesn't, what I'm replacing is this asynchronous stuff that would maybe take 2 hours to get back to me because he's not at my beck and call. But having this deep research agent get back to me within 5 minutes, or the email agent get back to me in less than a minute, those are great use cases.
Yeah, I think those, it's funny that maybe it's just me, but I recognized about 2 weeks ago, I came to the stage that I was already being super impatient with deep research, thinking, oh man, 5 minutes for you to do this task. And, 3 months ago, I would have thought, completely impossible. That, just how quickly the bar changes of impatience and importance of what you can use these insanely powerful tools for. But yeah, you're right. I think that idea of it's a tool, you get these discrete tasks you can give it with very distinct prompts and data that you're going to, that you're going to get more accurate results. And I think as those get more and more fine tuned, you'll see more people use those. And that might sound incremental, but it's incremental fast because people can quickly trust, like you said, that one task. Go research this company, their funding, this growth, what products they're in, how might I, pitch them for a service. You do that and a few times and you get better and better at that. Then the next thing is, how do I do that at scale with 1,000 at once? And then how do I do a marketing campaign to all of them? And how do I stitch together multiple automations to do this? But you have to trust the first output for you to then go add more and more and more things chained to it. So I do think it's incremental in that sense, but you're also seeing a ton of speed because there's more and more founders and startups that are seeing that these integrations can happen. And then, you see an individual founder or something like that stitch together 12, 15 different services into a business and then go prototype it very quickly and easily and cheaply. And I think we're going to continue to see that at a rapid pace.
I found that in my own usage, this deep research use case, I used to maybe research just a few companies that I'm meeting with that are high profile and worth researching. If I'm meeting with, say, Twilio, I'm going to research the heck out of you guys. But it being so cheap in terms of my time, like now I can just go research everything, anybody I'm meeting with. Now, definitely my token consumption and my AI utility bill has gone up. So all these companies are winning in the sense that, it's so easy to do that it's like, yeah, sure, why not just do it?
Yeah, it's almost becoming, years ago too. And, I'm in product and product management and always have said, being resourceful is one of the biggest attributes that you can have, whether it's just being a product manager at a large company or a startup founder or anything else like that. It's almost inexcusable that, I don't need to let me Google that for you. Now it's like, hey, you have tools at your disposal, any of these questions, if you haven't at least gone there first to use some AI tool, whether it's Gemini or OpenAI or others, to try to advance your learning on a given topic, or like you said, customer research or anything else that you're doing, you can do that now for a couple coffees a month cost. You can have a paid model and you can do a lot of research before you have to go ask anyone.
That's the top use case if you're not doing it right now.
Yeah.
What stops, in your meeting with all the executives from other companies, I imagine, what is the one excuse or what stops enterprises from adopting AI?
I think there's a lot of concern around data. And security and privacy is a big piece because, on the one hand, like I said, if you give a generic prompt to a chat GPT, you get a good answer, Eric. most likely back. You give a lot of good data and a prompt and personalization to really hone in what you're looking for, you're going to get a lot better answer. So in our case, with Twilio powering customer engagement for hundreds of thousands of customers all around the globe, for tens of millions of developers, that intriguing piece of I can take my communications, I can personalize them, I can automate them, and bring what we call, bring the communications, the data, and the AI together to really personalize a given experience. It's that piece of, okay, I need to give that AI model a lot of data, a lot of sensitive data, a lot of proprietary data, a lot of data that is my moat. How do I make sure that I can do that easily, securely, compliantly, everything else like that? Because, for many of our customers that roll this out to B2C companies, for the most part, they're serving tens of millions of consumers in their own right. That's always the type of data that you don't want to show up in the headlines of this leaked, this got out. Could a consumer call in and do some prompt injection to get another consumer's type of data? All those types of concerns that will slow roll that rollout. And so we're investing heavily in there to bring the power of, what we call more that customer memory of, if you're a business and you just think about how you want to be treated when a consumer approaches you, you would want to know everything there is to know about them, how you first met in that sense. How did you acquire that customer? What were their purchases? What are their history? What's their loyalty status? Did they just have 3 flights canceled in the last 24 hours? That might be highly sensitive versus, they just had a great consumer experience and left you a great review and everything else like that. So then it's, how do you bring that data to the forefront, to your communications, to your AI really securely and compliantly, so you can give that amazing consumer experience safely. And so I think those are the types of cases that we see where these larger enterprises want to test more and want to trust. And so I think that's where we've had, personally, I love it at Twilio too, is we have that advantage. We've been serving customers at massive scale, but also the developer audience. And you can trust, we're there at prototype stage, but we're there trusted to roll out to the large enterprise when they have that concern. And in this age of AI and people wanting to build really cool AI agents on top of us to do all sorts of things to save money and to make money, that they can move beyond the prototype and get into the production scale aspect. And to do that, that's that leap of, do I trust, this company? Do I trust how they handle my data? Do I trust how they handle my consumers' data? And then I feel comfortable to activate it. And so it's exciting to be able to have like the nimbleness of all the different APIs for us to be able to build, but also the trust factor. So that's a big key.
I run into similar issues when talking about whether it's accounting firms or law firms who want to implement AI. In fact, some of them, the big, medium-sized, bigger ones, they can't even use ChatGPT just because of that scare or issue concern.
Yep.
What was your aha moment with AI, Gen AI particularly? When didn't you realize that AI was going to change things?
Probably it's my personal usage of it. I think, I always am a tinkerer and try new things and want to see what works, what doesn't work. And I think to really do it, you have to experience these things. You can't just be reading about articles about AI. It's like really tangibly interacting with it. And I think, for me personally, I am finding myself leveraging the AI apps on my phone before, call it, previous things that I would have just searched on old school Google search, if you will, that now I'm going to voice mode in ChatGPT. And, I had an aha moment. I had to drive to my daughter's soccer game. It was like 45 minutes north of Denver. And I'm alone in the car, just driving along. And I had stuff to do. I had a trip to plan. And then I was actually looking at a new car. And so I just literally had my AirPods in. I've got the voice mode in ChatGPT, and I've got, paid upgrade plans with it, and literally had a conversation on those 2 major topics of planning a trip and then buying a truck and different options and everything else in between, coming out of that thinking, and I'm going to get the notes. And hey, by the way, summarize all of this for me, the conversation we had, because now I'm driving and you can give me that output in detail. I can interrupt you. I can get 3 other recommendations. I can totally change course and say, okay, I'm looking for an entirely different place. And it never skips a beat. But that's something that for me, I thought, you know what? If I can do that this easy from a accessibility standpoint, most people can do this because a voice is such a natural way to interface and to have a conversation. And if it can handle that, then I think how soon until that can be deployed, and what we try to do at Twilio is, how could you take that technology and put that behind every single phone number that you call as a business out there in the world? And so that was the big aha moment for me. It's like my personal usage. And I told my daughter when I got there, said, the weirdest, I literally just had a 30-minute conversation on all of these topics and planned things. And it's actually good enough to do it. I didn't, 3 years ago, I probably would have stopped and said, okay, this is just not there. The technology is just not there. It can't understand me. I can't understand this. But the fluidity, I think, is to a point where it can be natural and conversational, that I think now we're going to get to an inflection point that in particular will start to really grow as a use case, is voice interaction with AI, and not just planning a trip or buying a car, but all sorts of other tasks that all of us can do.
My personal experience, I used to, on long drives, whether it's up to SF or whatever, I used to drive and listen to podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's changed. I talk to ChatGPT now, and I'm usually planning something. So in my last trip, my last drive up there, I was talking about partnership with Segment, go to market, and planning a partnership. I gave it some context, like, hey, we're already an established Twilio partner, but Segment is still integrating and they have everything kind of separate. What should I do? What are my next steps? And it kind of talked me through it. And again, this is something that I never would have imagined, is just talking to AI and being able to ask, oh, what do they care about in terms of partners and all that stuff, and stuff that you might Google and try to read. Of course, you're not going to do that while driving, but you can just have this perfectly natural conversation with an AI who knows what.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating, and especially since it has a lot of that memory of a lot of that research. If you needed some quick reminder right before running into a meeting with someone of, I don't need all the education, just give me the last two things that I need to mention in this meeting, because all the notes and all the prep that I had, and just to get that quick reminder, those types of things are, I think, as they become more accessible and more people get those aha moments, I think you'll start to see the adoption go way up.
Taking it back to Twilio, what's one specific way Twilio is using AI right now to drive business value for you guys?
Yeah, I think so. We, for those that aren't familiar with Twilio, we power business communications for, like I said, hundreds of thousands of businesses, tens of millions of developers leverage Twilio to power all of their communications with customers across all the channels, from email to messaging to WhatsApp, all the OTT channels to voice, video. When you apply AI to that, I think the biggest thing that we're seeing right now is in the voice category. I'll call it the conversational category, because we're seeing it across messaging channels too, where consumers and businesses are interacting. So what we're doing is bringing in the ability for customers to move from maybe legacy systems of an old school IVR, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, to be able to offer a conversational AI experience that, if you think about it, like we were talking about earlier, is when I want to get an assistant, I want an assistant that's super smart. They know everything about my business and who I'm trying to research and what I'm trying to do as a business. And I want them to be smarter and smarter every day so they can help me as an assistant. Same type of thing if I'm a consumer. And if I call into a business, I want them to know who I am, what my purchase history is, what my problems are, that I can't log into the website. And I want them to be able to address my needs really quickly and easily while I'm on a walk with my AirPods, because I'm busy and I have stuff to do. And, staying on the phone with the business for half an hour while on hold is not on my to-do list. And tracking, 15 different emails over 5 days is also not on my to-do list to do with a brand. So really the theme is around conversational AI and helping customers take what might have been, an old web chat agent that they built a long time ago, or they still have an old school IVR, to say, how do I go from that to a personalized voice and messaging enabled AI agent that I can build on top of Twilio? I can have my own LLM. I can still keep my proprietary data, to what we talked about earlier. I can call my scheduling tool and my shipping tool and things like that. And then Twilio can handle all the communications hard part for me. And now I can deploy something. And I think the reason that's a big use case that's adding the most value in the market right now is you've got, like we talked about, the personalized OpenAI, ChatGPT, Gemini experience of us interacting directly with an AI model. But then there's the rest of the industry where you've got billions of dollars put into these AI models in the cloud. Is like, how do you bring all that AI model from the cloud to the last mile, where customers and consumers have real discrete problems that they want solved. So Twilio really sits at that last mile. And so bringing the power of the AI to where people have very discrete problems that can be solved really quickly, that's where we find this current sweet spot for us. Because I think a lot of the other challenges, like you and I were talking about earlier, of the misnomers about AI, is that it's all just up in the cloud, and it's a solution in search of a problem. There's so much money being invested there. That's where I think we've got an advantage. And what's so exciting for me personally and with our teams is we're taking that kind of down from the clouds right to the last mile and helping businesses drive real outcomes. And they can save on OpEx and get people doing higher value jobs for customers in many of those cases too. So that's what's super exciting. And the technology is changing so rapidly. Like I said earlier, the speech recognition technology, the generative AI voices are crazy good. And then even LLMs too are getting faster and faster and faster, and being built with this really, really low latency voice interaction in mind too, that we're seeing that really early success and demand, but it's still super early innings. And I think there's a lot more to go. For every couple experiences that I have with a business where I think, wow, that was amazing, there's 10 others that I think, wow, they could really use a lot of this technology.
Yeah, I think in maybe 5 to 10 years, when you call a business number, it's just going to be an AI taking a call, because they can always take calls 20.
Quick break. If Andy's insights on AI voice agents are sparking ideas for your own business, talk to us at Impekable. We've helped companies build and deploy real AI agents using Twilio, 11 Labs, and Google Cloud. Whether you need an MVP or a production rollout, we've done it. Visit impekable.com to see how.
Can you share Twilio's vision of communication, data, and AI? I know you've articulated that, and Twilio has articulated that at Signal. But for those of you, the folks listening who haven't had the privilege of attending Signal, I thought that was really compelling.
Yeah, I think we try to make the complex simple and like eliminate a lot of the complexities. That's how Twilio really started, was abstracting away all the complexities of telecom to be able to make a simple voice call with an API and enable any business to like instantly go global and embed voice into any application and any service. Then came messaging, and then email, and then like I said, over the top channels like and WhatsApp and the like that are dominating the industry. Is then what comes next? Yes, it's not more communications, it's better communications. So how do you really make every interaction with a business and a consumer amazing? And then kind of break that down. That sounds very simple. What does that mean? One is reach the customer anywhere they are on any channel that exists, because we all have, especially as you look at different geographies and countries and locations, there's different communications channels that people prefer or don't prefer, use for whatever reason. Meet them where they are and bring all of those communications channels where they are. Because if you can't do that, then all the AI doesn't necessarily matter. And do it in a compliant, trusted way. So if anything, there's going to be more and more regulations on how we communicate, because, all of us consumers, we don't want spam. We don't want robocalls. We don't want those things that aren't valuable. But when we do want to talk to businesses, we do want to see who it is and why, and then have that be trusted. So that's a foundation for what we think about in the communications piece that can make that experience amazing. Then the next piece is the data side of things. Is Twilio acquired Segment, customer data platform, years ago, and are really bringing that tightly integrated with the communications. Because if you think about it, a given text message or a phone call produces a lot of data in and of itself as to who, what, when, where, why, content, outcome of a conversation, call transcript, even real time sentiment analysis of a call, what you should do next best action after a call. Or in live during a call. Was that call branded, and did the consumer see a logo and a business name that influenced them to pick up? All of those types of data that is generated before, during, and after a communication. It's really bringing that with the communications and making that fuel to better personalize an experience, which again can make that back to amazing. Then you add AI to the mix, and Twilio is not building our own AI models to compete with OpenAI or Gemini or anything else like that. Really, our philosophy is to be masterful at integrating all of these different models, because they're going to be new, better, faster, efficient models, popping up every day. So we want to be able to allow you, the customer, to be able to integrate with all of those and make them your own. So, a simple premise of making all these communications amazing with us and businesses, and doing that, combining data communications and AI really together in a trusted way that's more simple to to use and deploy, and smarter than they ever were before to be more effective. So that's it in a summary.
Yeah, thank you. We're actually taking that message to heart and leaning hard into the communications data and AI story. I was inspired right after Signal to leverage Twilio to build basically an agent to take impeccable calls. Most of our calls go to voicemail because I can say that 99% is just telemarketers and vendors. And every time we pick up the phone, it's that 99% of the time. But the 1% of the time, it's an actual lead or someone who needs to get a hold of someone like me or someone within Impeccable. Or sometimes it's maybe even a Twilio partner who's cut a lead for us. We're now in the process of deploying an agent. And it was very easy to buy for Twilio. Folks listening in, we bought a 1-800 number. It was very easy to buy it through Twilio. It took a couple days, but we now have an agent we're testing that you can call. And we kind of put you in a couple buckets, but one example that will relate to you is if you say that you're a Twilio rep, we'll ask you, okay, what's the use case? Who's the client? What region? Because we support multiple regions. At the end of the day, we insert all that into our CRM, HubSpot, and also post it to Slack and tag the appropriate group, sales APAC or sales namer and whatever.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like a perfect, like we talked about earlier, perfect use case. You dip your toe in the water and say, okay, this is something that I can take from theory and it's actually working, and I can measure it and see what's working and tweak it and redeploy and go from there. That's a great use case.
What's the most interesting use case of Twilio and AI that you've seen?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I think the cases that I'm seeing that are really starting to push the envelope, so to speak, of the technology is in real time. We have customers that do a lot in translation services in a variety of different settings, in a general business setting, but also in a like emergency room type services where you might show up to a hospital and don't speak English or the dominant language of that hospital provider. And that is critical to be able to communicate of what your symptoms are, what's going on. And so there's been a lot of an industry around having those types of translation services that happen in a hospital setting and in emergency services setting. And now we're seeing, businesses that are starting to deploy AI, both real-time translation that can happen in those cases, as well as augmenting a network of human agent translators as well to be able to help clarify and tone and language and accuracy of terms that happen, because things are happening quickly. They're in a stressful environment, can be noisy environments as well. As you can imagine that, when you're trying to do speech recognition and language detection and interruption handling, you couldn't necessarily manufacture a more noisy, stressful environment that might be using old school telephony. Not everybody's hooked up to the latest device with the latest OS and perfect Wi-Fi and everything else like that. So I like those types of use cases that force us to be better at every layer of the stack of, the core communications to the quality of the communications. There's no jitter, there's no, bad quality, and you can get better audio, and then you can, help getting better speech recognition, better, generative AI voices, also quickly and easily conference in, a human supervisor to be able to observe. So that's one that does jump out that we're starting to see a lot of changes. And it's one that also, because we have such a depth and breadth of customers, from call it the regular Twilio business to our Twilio.org business, which has tens of thousands of the, top nonprofits that you would observe around the world doing amazing things, that those types of use cases just push us to offer a better product and service at every level. And so that's one that jumps out that I think is really, really fascinating right now. But there's so many that they pop up every day. I think that's the fun part of being at Twilio is next thing you know, you see some new startup attacking a problem space that you didn't necessarily know even existed yet. And they're leveraging us, which is great to see.
The ChatGPT use case for voice translation, I had this personal experience in a Lyft, and you can prompt ChatGPT to be a real-time translator and just give it prompts of like, don't repeat, just don't respond in that language, just translate it right away. And I was able to have a conversation with the driver.
Yeah.
And he was flipping out. He was wondering what the app was, and I'm like, it's just ChatGPT, and he was amused and amazed, to say the least.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, a lot of these, large models are baking those types of features and capabilities into them. And I think where it gets really interesting is then how do you disseminate it out to all the touch points that any of us might experience? Yeah, it's pretty fascinating how fast it's moving.
What are you seeing that most companies are getting wrong with AI adoption?
I think it sometimes gets back to just the assumptions and expectations being everything. In some cases, even a year ago, there was a lot of critiques of, well, that's just a wrapper over so-and-so model. But then starting to see that there's so many niches and cottage industries and little verticals that service these hyper-specific niches that you can build a business doing that, serving customers and solving specific use cases. And I think that's one thing. The other is the assumption that that any feature that you build will also be subsumed by the massive models, so you shouldn't even bother. So I do think that there's assumptions on both sides of you can't build a business on top of any type of model at all. I think there's going to be a lot of verticals and niche businesses that you're going to be able to solve and even be model agnostic. As long as you solve a specific industry and area really, really well, I think that's one of the long-term durable things that you can do. And the other side is, that while those models are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and faster at the same time, it's still a tool and it's not a solution in search of a problem. If you look at it as I can go find problems and then leverage this tool to solve and bring a solution, then I think you can, build a business or, bring another feature to market. If you're a larger company, it kind of comes back to looking at that as a tool versus getting sucked into the all or nothing market trends and chatter about AI, in my mind.
I think you gave me a thought. One, as large companies are deploying AI at scale, one, redundancy, right? You can't just depend on, say, OpenAI. I think it went down at some point just recently. Just like ad networks go down, having been in that space a little bit, they don't depend on one ad network. They're constantly having backups and also optimizing. If this ad network currently pays better, for some clients, we're also looking at, when we're deploying AI at scale, looking at which models kind of give you the best bang for buck, whether it's you're trying to optimize for speed or accuracy or cost. Those all have decision trees, and you can kind of balance all that. It's not just going, the MVP or the proof of concept. Yeah, just pick one and just run with it. But as you scale, if you don't fine tune or optimize, either the results are not going to be great or your cost is going to skyrocket. So I think adopting that notion of, hey, you could be agnostic.
Yeah, I think there's, already seen a few startups popping up there that are almost the equivalent of what's happened in telco for decades, a concept of like a least cost routing. I have a phone call. How do I deliver that phone call globally, at the lowest cost and traverse a bunch of different carriers out there, at that same time of like get an incoming signal in real time. And therefore, based on the attributes or the metadata around that signal, I'm going to pick this model for this discrete cost and this speed in a real time scenario versus, bulk. I will do all of these tasks with these models. So I think it's going to get really crazy really quickly that you'd be able to traverse, multiple models. And you've got these major clouds that have larger model gardens that have 500, 1,000 or more models already hosted in that infrastructure. So you could do that even faster, which is kind of mind boggling on from a workflow management too, because there's going to be whole other industries built on top of doing all the QA on top of that and how it worked out. So
are you alluding to
fascinating.
your Twilio's partnership with Microsoft Azure?
That's one yes, that's one. And partnering with Azure as well, of like, builders want to be able to have choice, and they want to have choice and they want to have trust. We were talking earlier about data privacy and trust and things like that. Of I might want all large selection of all the different models out there, but I want to trust the infrastructure that it's built on. And I think it's yet another democratization of AI to be able to get all these models out on all of this different infrastructure that's global. And you could spin up a business or an app or something that's leveraging AI, and of course you want that infrastructure available globally instantly if you've got big ambitions to make it a large business, or even a niche business that wants to serve every country on the globe, that you want that too.
What are your thoughts on AI voice agents identifying themselves as human or AI?
Yeah, I think now that we are getting to the point where, our advice to, and my advice to businesses is declare it out at the beginning. And, very similar to, because on one side, as consumers, we want to know who we're engaging with and also what data they know at the time. Just like anytime you meet someone, you introduce yourself and look them in the eye. It's the same thing. This is, I'm an AI agent, and I'll, be able to help you, and at any given time, then you as a consumer know, okay, I've gotten to where I need to be, and that was great, or now I need to escalate, and and I want to speak with a human agent. On one hand, on the other hand, I think very quickly we'll start to see local regulations and start to see country regulations that will force it already out of the gate for this to happen. And that could be on multiple channels. That could be a web chat agent announcing that they're an AI agent, a voice AI agent announcing that, or even a reply from an email or something else like that, that's where this came from. So I think just a pure transparency standpoint. And we don't see from even our customers even genericizing the data that it has a negative effect. I think it's really quickly the outcome and how is that conversation going that determines and us as human consumers that want to escalate to a human agent or want to continue on with an AI agent. So I think we're going to see more regulations around that as well too, that it'll just be standard that any AI agent will just be announced that's what they are. And similar to saying this call might be recorded, or we might be analyzing the data to ensure that all the next experiences are even better too. So I think that's going to be another piece of it as well.
Those are good frameworks, and I echo the sentiment. I think I would rather just know upfront.
Yeah, those voices are getting so much better, honestly. I mean, I've been loading in a full 2 hours of my own voice just to clone my own voice and try a couple of different providers out there for that reason. And then listening to it back again, it's really natural sounding, let alone any of the other voices that are emerging that it's just natural to declare that and then have a good experience. And if you don't, that doesn't mean it's necessarily the AI agent might be, like as a lot of technologists will say, it's as worse as it possibly will be today. It's only going to get better.
Yeah, that's the one saying when people talk about Gen AI, whether it's images or video, and they kind of poo-poo it. I said, this is the worst it'll ever be right now.
Yeah.
And I've said that even within the span of 6 months, 2 years, things just get better and better all the time. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. Me too.
If you're starting a company today and how would AI be at the center of the business's core strategy?
Sure. I think it even starts at just even developing your strategy for a business that, by years ago, it would be inexcusable to not Google something and search something on your own. Same type of thing of, if you're a very creative founder, chances are you've got ideas popping in your head all day, every day, and they could be sporadic thoughts here and there from every aspect of the business, from the product to the technology to hiring and recruiting and to how you would market and who your target customers would be and everything else like that, that using AI right then and there to be able to distill all of that down into very structured thinking. There's been far too many, blog posts and documents and books and everything else written to help you be a better founder and have a better success rate. Bounce all of that against all the knowledge that's been out there and, troubleshoot and get the ideas for how it could work, how it couldn't work, everything else like that, and using AI right then and there. Just an idea generation stage in building out a pitch deck or a fundraising deck, or, most importantly, finding target customers to go visit and meet with and test your idea. I think that's in testing the demand, what's out there. I think just being resourceful and, previous founders that, years and years ago didn't have those tools. They were still resourceful and found target customers that they thought they had the problem and tested their solution against it. Then I think getting to the prototyping stage, especially if it's a software tool, if it's an app, if it's an AI agent, something along those lines, you can now find 45-minute, an hour, 2-hour, 5-hour full tutorials down to every tool, every click, every service you can integrate to be able to build out a prototype in a few hours, and then use AI to build a prototype, use AI to find target customer list, use AI to reach out to test with those customers, and stay close to that problem solution, and then iterate from there. I think there's ways to use AI all along the way, and it accelerates your ability to go from cool idea to actual proof that there's a need out there and that there's a market, and then grow from there. So that's kind of how I think about it, is at the idea stage to the prototyping stage to the customer research stage, and then just circle right back around into the iteration stage of it. So those are things that I would give advice to, and even down to the number crunching and forecasting stage and things like that, very easily done. To say, I have this product in this market, how many consumers are addressable? Let's say I get this. That's a 30-second conversation to get a financial model spit back out to you. So
Yeah, there's no excuse
much
now.
easier much easier than before. Especially kind of complements your skill sets that you don't have. Maybe you're very visual and you need written format, or maybe you're written format and you need visual, either of those types of things. I think it really helps compensate maybe some of those skill sets that you don't have.
I even heard, as adding on to this, there was a guy I was talking to. He had a startup idea around building synthetic AI agents who are your virtual customers to try out your MVP. Because if you can define your Facebook target audience or your Google audience or whatever, okay, you kind of have a sense of your ICP. So the idea is to create these agents who would try out your product and think out loud
Why
and
not?
give you feedback. So you can even get early AI feedback on kind of your virtual customers.
I think that's brilliant. You can set up those profiles of those consumers who could reflect reality. They're really busy. They don't think about your product or brand all day, every day, as much as you'd love them to. You're a tiny snapshot in their mind when they need you, when they want you, and they'll give you many reasons why they wouldn't renew, or they wouldn't buy, or they wouldn't purchase. And maybe creating synthetic reviews of your product based on reviews that exist of other products out there to help you get a reality check of what you need to do. I think that's a great idea to be able to do that. I mean, nothing beats, the real customer who has, the real payment. But again, if you can use it to accelerate your thinking and your knowledge, all the better.
What advice are you giving your kids about their careers in an AI first world?
I try to think about it of all of this tech is changing nonstop. So I'm definitely not getting it in front of them nonstop to play and tinker and use it right now. I am really emphasizing the things that are not going to change in my mind, which is going to be the foundational soft skills, if you will, just hard work, integrity, creativity, being okay with failure, understanding that it's all learning experiences, understanding how to bring value to other people, not just networking, bring value, be inquisitive, want to help, look for problems that you feel like you could have a solution to, even at the smallest scale. Not talking about creating business ventures at 12 years old. It's how could I help that person out? Because at the end of the day, that's really what ends up being, is I see a lot of people that have a special need. I'm going to solve that. That can be a business. So start at the smallest level of who can I help with the talents and skill sets that I have? How can I communicate with them written, eye to eye? How can I build trust with people? How can I just exercise my creative talents and use those things? Because I think as that evolves, I observe some of the best people that either I'm hiring or teams that I'm building, they're going to have that adaptability and that curiosity, because that's a foundational thing. If they don't have that, they're going to be left behind. And I think it becomes those foundational skills that you have to have, because who knows, if we don't know what the technology is going to be in a year or 2 years, or which one's going to really take off, especially as it relates to AI, it's going to be really hard to think about that 5 and 10 years from now. It's going to be, what are those foundational things that will help carry you no matter what the technological shift is going to be? So those are the ones that I'm emphasizing. I think there's a lot of benefit that I think that we're going to see with AI as an amplifier for things like education, like we were talking about earlier. How do I learn something really quickly? How do I explore concepts that I before wouldn't have been able to explore really quickly, that I think and I hope will start to offset some of the difficulties that just pure play social media has had for our youth and for kids. So that's my optimist thinking, is that, I think social media exploded with so many things that didn't necessarily connect us, that didn't offer the social skills, that did bring more news about all the troubles of the world and not the positive side of things. And I think there's an optimist side of me that thinks some of the AI pieces can offset those and help you more rediscover a different way to see the world when it relates to technology.
That's a great positive message to end our conversation, leading with foundational, I would say, core values, right? Adaptability, kind of curiosity, all those things that are not going to change over time. And if you have those traits, I think, as you echoed, that you'll probably do okay. For anyone who wants to learn more about you and Twilio, where should they go?
Sure thing. Yeah, Twilio.com, just Twilio.com. All the ways to get started quickly and easily. You can build anything you need and get started. I think that's been our really proud achievement, is making hard things simple to get started there. That'll be the best place to go to see what you can do.
Okay. And it's pretty easy, but if you need help, I'll plug in Impekable. We're a Twilio partner, 10 years and going, and happy to help on any of those use cases. Thank you so much, Andy, for this conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me, Pek. This was great. I really appreciate it.
If today's conversation inspired you to explore AI, conversational interfaces, or agent automation, Impekable can help. We're a 10-year Twilio partner with deep experience building voice, messaging, and AI-enabled products. Head to impekable.com or check the link in the description to connect with us. We'll see you in the next one.
The Impekable Minds podcast.